Welcome everyone to Ozarks Tonight. I'm Brian Calfano, joined by familiar faces, our Ozarks first contributors, Amy Blansett and Nick Reed. Good evening to both of you. Glad to have you here again.
Thanks for having us.
Let's just throw this out there now because we had the Democratic debate, third Democratic debate recently, and one of the things that came up for like the first hour of that entire extravaganza was the idea of Medicare for all being a great idea. And backing it up a little bit, the argument isn't that Medicare is so great, it's that, well, the right that people have now is to access to health care. And I know that ends up being something that people get really upset about hearing. Because, well, some people get upset about hearing. Others think it's like divine knowledge. So I wanted to kind of work through this with you because before we get to anything about policy and costs and everything else, I think the question about is it really a right to have access to health care, not something the founding fathers ever thought about because they were bleeding you out with leeches back then, right? So how do we deal with this now in our new brave new world, I guess, of technology and opportunities for people, and do we just let people die if they can't have access? And we'll start with Nick, because I think that's...
You think that's what, Brian?
Yeah, I was just going to say, in your wheelhouse. I mean, you talk about this sort of thing a lot on your show, right?
Yeah. Well, first off, and this is, I think, probably news to a lot of people, everyone does die. So we should just get that out there. That does happen.
We can
Everyone
come from
does.
A point of agreement.
Yes, okay.
Let's start there.
We want to start there.
Yeah.
But really, honestly, I mean, you mentioned the word right, and
all right, so again, that's what they say, the proponents.
Right.
It is a right to have access to health care, at least basic health care coverage to do whatever they do.
Well, and the question you ask is it a right? And I would say no, defining right in this way. And that is, it's a little test I do in terms of what a right is. If something requires someone else to do something, then it's not an inalienable right. So like I have the right to speak or to assemble, a number of different things. I can do that without anybody else having to do a thing in the world. But if you start saying, well, you have a right to health care, well, does that mean that somebody has to provide it? Somebody has to pay for it. So all of a sudden, what you're defining as a right is taking away someone else's because they no longer have the free will to decide whether or not to engage with you that way.
Because you're forcing them to work on your behalf is the argument.
Yeah. Now that doesn't mean that, that doesn't automatically mean that, oh, we should not try and provide it for everyone. That's a separate discussion. But in terms of is it a right, I would say no. So then, of course, comes, well, why I believe a lot of people do call it a right. We've tended to merge into this world where we declare rights as something we just want, or something that we would really like other people to have. And
so it's like a moral question, I guess, right? It's immoral in some minds for people who can't afford coverage to be able to access coverage.
So I like your point in the idea of when we start in the terms that we use and individuals have different beliefs in what those terms mean, then we never move forward. So let's not use the word, is it a right, okay? So then we begin to say, is it a moral belief? Is it ethical that we say?
But the Dems say it's a right.
Correct, but I'm just saying for this conversation to say, how do we move forward?
Okay.
If we're saying we're going to have a discussion that should individuals have access to health care, do we have to define it as a right to say that we all believe that individuals should have basic access, right? Because it should be affordable. And what's happened is even the basic access is no longer affordable or accessible. You say that the idea of if I have to pay for it, then it's no longer a right. So if someone's consuming a product I'm providing and I'm being forced, we're being forced anyway. It's our greatest expense in tax dollars. So really what we need to be talking about is not is it a right and how do we do it, but instead we are already paying. We're already paying massive amounts into a broken health system. So instead, how do we begin to correct that system, remove the areas that fraud is one of the greatest losses, and how do we start creating a system that is accessible and is affordable? Now, at some point, are there electives that aren't deemed necessary? I lost a spouse in a period of time where he was going through a bad market. Well, thank God he kept his basic health insurance, but it was emergency insurance. $400,000 later, and many loopholes that we had to go through where he had to choose a lesser care, even as someone who had insurance. You know, it's frustrating to me to think he had a gap in insurance and he didn't get to select the best care that might have had a different outcome. So obviously I come from it in a very personal way of someone who had healthcare-ish. And the system that we have, whether you don't have it or you're in the gap of barely having it, people are dying unnecessarily. People are dying of very preventable things because cost and access are things that instead of coming to the table and say, how do we create a bridge to use the funds we're already paying for them to be effective, we instead get into an argument and we move nowhere because we are defining what is a right.
Well, and then I would also, point out that health insurance or Medicaid or Medicare doesn't necessarily translate to health care.
Correct.
Or healthier people.
Or healthier people, for that matter. And that was another conflation that was happening a lot during Obamacare, or any discussion about government involved in healthcare. Got to make sure everybody has health insurance. Have to make everyone needs to be covered with health insurance. But that doesn't mean everyone's going to get the health care, because as you mentioned, I mean, most people know this. Whether it's a private insurance entity or if it's a government entity, there is a third party that makes a determination as to where whether it's going to be paid for.
And there's also the issue of motivation to actually enter as a healthcare provider, as a doctor, as a nurse, because if you are not getting reimbursed, you're not able to make money to pay back those student loans. And there's a question of, are you actually going to have people wanting to have these jobs like general practitioners?
Right, and
There's
Mercy just did a major layoff because of the cost of uninsured individuals entering the system.
All right, well, let's take a quick break. We've agreed healthcare is not a right, but it's morally important.
Yes.
Nick, now it's over from Nick. But
I'm agreeing.
All right, very good. We'll see what we can do from a practical policy standpoint when we come back.